Welcome to Stateline New South Wales. I'm Quentin Dempster. We now appear to be in the final days of 16 years of Labor government. If the polls, the pundits and the perceptions are right, this will be the last session of a bear pit ruled by a Labor parliamentary majority. After March the 26th next year, the Government of New South Wales is expected to change. Faced with this seeming inevitability, the Keneally government has lately been trying to reposition itself politically. As we noted last week, Premier Keneally has been moving Labor to a softer centre on contentious issues like same-sex adoption, making the King's Cross injecting room effectively permanent, and signing an MOU with Sydney Lord Mayor Clover Moore. Less than a year after the government legislated to make property developer donations to political parties unlawful, this week the Premier announced further campaign finance reforms. But the spectre of sleaze continues, with yet another Labor MP under ICAC investigation. In a few moments I'll be talking to the Premier in our studio. First, some highlights from the final days in the bear pit.
Mr Speaker, my question is directed to the Premier. Now that you've lost the member for Heathcote, member for Keira, former MLC Ian McDonald and former member for Penrith from your government, and the member for Drummoyne is now subject to yet another ICAC investigation, can you guarantee there will be no more scandals over the next 6 months under your green light for bad behaviour approach?
Here we are on the second question. All they are, in the gutter, muck-raking, can't ask one question, about policy, Mr Speaker.
Well, yes, Premier, but given the casualty rate, what opposition could resist the chance to rake the muck?
My question is directed to the Premier. Do you agree with your Director-General that when a minister has a relationship with a person who is employed within an industry for which he or she is minister, as the Minister for Arts has with Mr Costa Nikas, Order. That this raises the potential for an actual or apparent conflict of interest, and the Minister for the Arts should disclose this conflict?
Order. The Premier.
Just to comply with the Ministerial Code of Conduct.
Given you require senior public servants to stand down pending investigations into their conduct or corruption allegations, why won't you apply the same standards to your own team and stand down the member for Drummoyne and the Parliamentary Secretary for Police pending the outcome of the ICAC inquiry?
The Premier.
I thank the opposition for his question, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I'm aware that ICAC will be holding a public inquiry starting at 10 a.m. on Tuesday the 5th of October 2010. I will not seek to preempt or to influence ICAC in its processes or its inquiries.
My question is directed to the Premier. When did the member for Drummoyne notify you that she was under investigation by the ICAC?
Mr Speaker, I'm advised that my office was advised by the member for Drummoyne, and obviously, Mr Speaker, we are unable to comment publicly.
When the opposition did get onto policy, it was campaign finance reform, meant to be a bipartisan change, but the scorn continued.
How can you seriously claim to be limiting third-party campaign expenditure when your proposal outlined today would allow the 22 unions formerly affiliated with the Labor Party to spend a total of $23 million supporting you at the next election?
Order. Now, Mr Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition asks about the issue of third-party expenditure, the caps that are proposed for third-party expenditure, and it's worth just reminding the House that what the government's response, which was made public today, recommends is that third parties may not receive more than $2,000 from each donor in a financial year, and that third parties may not spend more than $1.05 million in a regulated period, or $20,000 per electorate.
Given your media comments on the issue to date, will you assure the House that no proposal was ever taken to Cabinet to overturn the current ban on developer donations to political parties?
Since the Leader of the Opposition is so keen to make this point, I'm happy to reveal to the House the contents of the conversation I had with him on the telephone the night before the announcement was made, when I phoned him to brief him on what we would be announcing the next day. Because, Mr Speaker, what he said then was that he thought it might be logical to repeal that ban.
Finally, it all exploded. Premier Keneally strode back into the chamber and gave a performance the likes of which we have not seen before.
I was watching the Leader of the Opposition. He told me a story about a raffle he had to pull out, how he explained that there couldn't be any developers who buy tickets, how he thought it was illogical, Mr. Speaker. I will not stand and listen to that.